Are you a real estate investor who's tired of dealing with tenants, toilets, turnovers, and chasing rent payments? Or are you an entrepreneur looking for generating another stream of income? Well, today is your lucky day because I will be talking about one of those ways of how you can make money in the short-term rental business or in Airbnb. And in this video, I will be particularly focusing on the things that you need to consider when buying a property with the intention of leasing it short-term. Hi, my name is Rain Villaspear and I am a realtor with eXp Realty. Thank you once again for tuning in and supporting my channel. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Now, let's dive into the real value of this video. Now, what is a short-term rental in the first place? A short-term rental is a property that is being leased in a short-term basis in exchange for a form of payment. Now, there are many different definitions of what a short-term rental is depending on which city or municipality you're located in. For example, in Toronto, a property is considered as a short-term rental if it's being leased for not more than 28 consecutive days and not more than 180 days in a year. A short-term rental company is a company that facilitates and brokers online reservations in exchange for a form of compensation. These companies include Airbnb, VRBOs, Booking.com, and so on. All short-term rental companies are required to have a license for them to be able to legally operate in Toronto. All short-term operators, like myself, are also required to register with the city, and it costs about $50 here in Toronto. What are the benefits of short-term leasing, and why is it so lucrative to a lot of investors? Well, number one is cash flow. If you compare the potential income or revenue that you will get from a short-term rental versus a long-term rental, you would probably get at least 25 to 50% more of what you get from a long-term rental. That's because there's usually a bit of a price premium attached when you are leasing a property at a very short time duration versus long-term rentals wherein you only have one tenant and they're usually locked in for an entire year or so, and you get a stable income from that particular tenant versus short-term rentals wherein it's a little bit more erratic, it's a little bit more volatile and seasonal depending on which location your rental is. The second benefit is there's less wear and tear, and a lot of you might be thinking that it's a little bit counterintuitive because of the fact that there's more traffic when you have a short-term rental versus long-term rental. However, if you really think about the lifestyle or the activities that your guests have when they come to your rentals, most of the time they're outside doing their tourist activities such as going to amusement parks, going to mountains, being outside on the beach, and they usually just come home to either eat, rest, sleep, and shower. The third benefit is that there's better care for the property. Because there's more frequency of turnover, there's also more frequency of cleaning the property, and therefore your property is more well maintained versus long-term leasing wherein you don't really have a handle of how the tenants are able to take care of your property. Last but not the least, you are able to have regular inspections on your property in short-term rentals. With long-term rentals, you have to at least notify the tenant 24 hours and provide that notice before you can actually physically visit the property. So now that we know what short-term rentals are and the benefits attached to it, let's dive into the things that you need to consider when buying properties with the intention of leasing it short-term. So number one is location. Location. In any type of real estate deal, I always tell the client that location is number one factor that you need to look at. So in this case, what is the main attraction that draws the people in to that particular location? Are there any amusement parks located around it? Are there any beaches, mountains, concert halls, conference centers? Think about what demand there is already and don't create that demand. Now, to understand more about the demand, let's look at the typical short-term rental guest profiles that drive up those demands. Number one is your vacationers or your tourists. These are the people who typically just need lodging for them to sleep and shower, and most of the day they're always outside doing their touristy things. Number two is corporate or business people. If your rental property is within the financial district, for example, or around a conference center, then you would probably attract a lot of working corporate individuals. especially during COVID when there is this hybrid mode of work schedule. I actually had this particular frequent guest who came back 3 times because she had to work around the vicinity, so she needed a place to stay from Monday to Friday for about 3 weeks. And as a token of appreciation, I actually gave her a bottle of wine and a note to appreciate her being a loyal guest. Now, number 3 are your academic individuals who are here to either visit a university or college that they want to go into, or to take on some really short courses that would only last a few days or weeks. Number 4 is life events. So these are the people who would lease your unit to celebrate a milestone in their life, or maybe a milestone or life event with their loved ones, such as, let's say, a couple that just recently got married and wants to spend their honeymoon in, let's say, Bari or Santorini in Greece, right? Number 5 is entertainment. If your rental property is around a theater, for example, or a arena that hosts a lot of concerts, then you will be getting a lot of these guests who want to be here for entertainment purposes. Number 6 is medical. So these are the people who need to get treated or require health services and would need to be around or nearby a hospital for a short duration of time. Maybe, let's say, there's a cancer patient and you need to get treated for the entire week, and this hospital is only a hospital that provides that treatment or services to treat you for that entire duration. Number 7 is military. Alright, military personnel always get deployed everywhere in the country. I mean, I know, I dated one. Military personnel actually get deployed all over the place, and they often need short-term accommodation depending on where they are assigned it to. Number 8 is emergency. This happened especially during COVID when frontline workers are, let's say, tested positive and they need to get isolated and they can't go back to their homes because they don't want to infect their housemates or their family members. So what they do is they rent and lease a short-term rental property for about at least 2 weeks so that they can isolate and keep everyone else safe. Last but not the least is relocation. So these are the people who require a temporary accommodation because they are currently in the process of moving to another place or house. So let's say you're a homeowner and you bought a property. Now the closing dates don't match, so you need a short-term rental for you to bridge that gap temporarily. I mean, you wouldn't want to be homeless, right? Now moving on, the second thing that you should consider when buying properties with the intention of short-term rentals is the law and regulations. Laws and regulations constantly change, so we have to be agile so that we can effectively respond to those ever-changing laws. Now, this is mainly driven by the hotel and lodging constituents and stakeholders, and rightfully so because they want to defend their market share. Now, the bylaws here in Toronto states that you can only lease your short-term rental up to 28 consecutive days and up to 180 days in a year. You also have to collect 4% municipal accommodation tax, and you can only lease your principal residence. Therefore, you can only have one short-term rental because you can only have one principal residence at a time. Not only that, you have to register your property with the city. When the City of Toronto implemented these rules not too long ago, from what I remember it's around 2020, a lot of short-term rentals were taken out of the market because of all these new rules that they implemented. That is why, having said that, the third point that I want to focus on and stress is that you need to have multiple exit strategies in case those laws change. Now, if the laws change and you cannot somehow rent your property short term, do you have a plan B, a plan C? Can you rent it long term? Can you rent it as an executive suite? Or can you sell it and break even at least? That is why it is important to not bend your numbers and have the end in mind when acquiring properties, because as an investor, you need to have multiple backup plans in case your main or first plan fails. Now, having said that, number 4 is finances. Buying properties with the intention of leasing it short term is all about cash flow. Price appreciation is just a bonus, so when you run your numbers, make sure that you run it both on short-term and long-term rentals. So some of the costs that you need to be aware of are the furniture cost, which is probably the big bulk of your upfront cost, property management fees, if you decide to have it professionally managed, repair and cleaning costs, and supplies such as your linens, toiletries, cleaning supplies, and bed sheets. So moving on, the fifth thing that you need to consider is infrastructure. Is your property surrounded by amenities? How accessible is your property to the cleaning and repair services? I mean, if you have a property isolated in the mountain, how do you think the cleaning services or repair guys are gonna come there and clean and do their services, right? I mean, you're not gonna fly them out through a helicopter. That is why if you are just starting out, make sure that you get property that is nearby, that is accessible to you, because you want to be hands-on in terms of cleaning and maintaining the property, because really the best way for you to learn the process is to actually go through the process. Now, as soon as you have a sufficient amount of experience, then you can venture out and pick something that is more farther than where you're currently living. Now, it is very important to treat this as a business and to know exactly what your why is. Why exactly are you doing this? Is it because of the lifestyle that you want? Is it because you want an extra income? Do you want to get a vacation rental, for example, and spend half of the year there, and half of the year it could generate income for you to supplement your lifestyle? And depending on what your whys are, you can optimize your processes and systems, and there are four main different ways of how you can optimize your systems in place. Number one is pricing. Dynamic pricing tool is fully integrated with the Airbnb software, such as Price Labs, and what it does is it has an algorithm that detects trends and local events and automatically bakes in the price premium when the guest books your property. So let's say 2 months from now, there is a local event happening in the city of downtown Toronto, and the software detects that, increases the maximum allowable price for those given dates. Similar to an airline or a hotel, they use this type of dynamic pricing tool to maximize their revenue. That's why you can see, when you book your flight tickets, price changes every day, and sometimes even every hour, because their algorithm detects those demands. Number two is access and safety. Most hosts use a standard keypad lock, but the trouble for that is, you can't really change the code every time there is a turnover. With smart locks these days, that issue is then solved, because the smart locks can now even be integrated with the Airbnb software, and whenever you have a guest that's coming in, the smart lock would generate a special code that would only allow the guest to use that code from the moment they check in until they check out. And every time you have a new guest, they have a new code that they're going to use, and this really prevents intrusion or unauthorized trespassers from accessing your property, because the code always varies every time you have a new guest. Not only that, you can also have a log and see the people who go in and out, because it's monitored through the smart lock. Another feature that you probably should be looking at are installing external cameras, so you can see who goes in and out of your property. So if you see a bunch of random people suddenly going into your property, that probably indicates that there's an unauthorized party going on. Now, which leads me to the next feature, which is a noise monitoring system, wherein that system detects excessive noise levels, and this way it would protect you, your neighbors, and your reputation, because excessive noise is a leading indication of an authorized misuse of your property. The third system that you can optimize is your guest communication. Now, there is a software that has an artificial intelligence built within it, such as HostAway, previously known as SmartBnB, and this is a software that responds automatically to your guest's questions. For example, if the guest is asking, if there are any recommended restaurants around your rental property, then it would automatically send them the list of highly rated restaurants that they are looking for. The less touch points you have as an operator or as a host with a guest, the more time is freed up and more time for you to focus on things that really add value to your time schedule. Number 4 is turnover management, or what is also known as cleaning and maintenance. Turnover B&B provides a service that automatically schedules and pays cleaning services every time you have a turnover. So the beauty of having this service is that you have a bigger pool of resources that you can use to service your property. If you only rely with one cleaner, for example, and that cleaner calls in sick or has an emergency, then you don't have any backups, right? So there you have it, folks. I hope you picked up a lot of golden nuggets in this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And if you liked this video, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a good day.